a week or a few days? It's quite a condensed
yes,
timeline.
it's about a week, yeah, maybe five.
But your other
days.
books were much sort of a bigger, longer
Yeah.
timeline. Did that sort of help in terms of the tension, or was that harder because it was a contracted timeline?
I think it was a bit harder because because it was quite sort of concise, I had to really be careful that I wasn't repeating myself, or I wasn't going back or getting something wrong,
Yeah.
because it was quite specific when the times everything happened, because it really focuses on one evening
Yeah.
when this accident happens, and then it starts, so the prologue is the accident, then it goes back to like, I think it's 3 days before or something, and then it's the build up to that, and then there's the accident, and then there's the aftermath in part 3 of the book. So it was really quite a juggle in terms of mentally working out when everything was. And I know you probably might ask the plotter or pants the question in a while, but I don't plan my books at all. So in terms of not being a planner, it's quite hard to get that all in my head and work out whether I had repeated anything or.
Yeah. And do you sort of feel like with each book you want to do something a bit different to sort of challenge yourself in some way, like a different timeline or a different sort of, like, is that something that you think about when you're coming up with an idea?
I quite like using different kind of tenses. So I think Trivia Night was first person past, and this is third person present. So I quite like exploring the voice in that sense, and I really like the way this one's written. It was easier to write somehow, and so the next two are actually written in the same way, and they seem to flow. The writing seems to flow a lot better than it did with.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think it's considered, the first person is considered the hardest.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, well, I read that and went, yes.
Yeah.
True.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you done any in first?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm doing too many in first
Yeah.
at the moment.
We're gonna get into the third.
Yeah, third's
easier.
much easier.
But third person past is harder, I think. I don't know.
Have to talk about it in the car.
Yeah.
Which character did you most enjoy writing?
Estella, for sure, but just because she is so outrageously awful, and I really enjoyed that dynamic between her and her daughter, like I said before, and having a daughter of my own, and she's so she's and just knowing how much we absolutely adore each other, but also butt heads quite a lot, I just really enjoyed that. I mean, Sally's not a teenager yet, but I can only imagine what she's going to be like when she is. Wow. So I just really enjoyed that. Being I've got 2 boys, but the mummy-girl relationship, very special, and I really enjoid exploring that. So
It rang true because I had a teenager, and I was like,
if I'm doing it right now.
Did this book require more or less research than the others?
Probably there was a bit of research, but not. I mean, Trivia Night and the Running Club was very much in my own head. Although for the Running Club, I did have to research 1990s Australia for the Shelby's back chapters, and that was researching about the HSC when I did A levels in England. I had to keep messaging my friends and saying, did you get your results in the post in Australia, or did you get them in the post office or at school, and weird things like that. So that, I suppose there was a bit of research that went into that. This one, there was a little bit of ancient history, a little bit of, like I said, the Latin, but no, a bit of cake making, but no, again, it was a bit about kids sport, rugby, because I don't really know much about rugby, so a bit about try scoring and how many kids play on whatever aside it is, 7-a-side, so stuff like that, but nothing that I had to really research for hours now. It's a bit about car crashes and police procedural, but not much.
That sort of segues into what I was going to ask you. Having been a journalist for so long, sort of like research is a huge part of being a journalist. Did you find that the research process, it's just, because I find that having been a journalist, it's like not an issue, you kind of just do it because it's just what you do to find out things.
Yeah.
Whereas sometimes people talk about the whole research process,
Yeah.
and I forget that I've done research.
Yeah,
Do you know
it's
what I'm
true,
saying?
because you're just kind of doing it all the time anyway.
Yeah.
But even when I'm not writing, I feel like I'm always Googling stuff
Yeah,
or
yeah.
going down rabbit holes.
Yeah,
So,
curiosity.
yeah, I don't know whether that's just a normal kind of human nature thing or a journal
Yeah.
thing, I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
But yeah, I don't mind doing research, but I never feel like I do too much of it, but maybe that's why. Maybe that's
Yeah,
because
I think so.
it's a
You
kind of
probably do more
consistent
than
thing.
you actually realise.
yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
I'll tell people that.
Yeah. And do you feel like you bring anything else from journalism to your novel writing? Anything that's sort of helped?
I think probably because, as you know, as a journo, you kind of need to have a strong start, strong middle, strong end. You need to kind of pull the best bits out of the story. So I guess that's always drummed into me to not waffle on. But also, conversely, it was really hard to go from writing 500-word stories to that were based on fact to being able to create something that's not factual and that I can actually. Sometimes in my edit notes for the trivia night, there would be, okay, can we explore this a bit more? Because I'd be very concise about
that
what
happens to me too.
Yeah,
I think it's the journalism background.
So we're so used to it. But then I also think it kind of, journalism background helps you, sort of helps me, for example, be able to work with noise, because I'm used to being in a newspaper office or a magazine office where there's people talking all the time, so I can always work with that kind of hum of noise. I don't mind it. I don't know. I think you have to be quite organised as a journo, because you go from one thing to the next. You might go from one story to another quite quickly, and with books you might be promoting one, writing another, editing another, so you kind of have to have your fingers in different pies, and I think maybe that is kind of good grounding in some ways. I don't know.
There's almost a like producing aspect to journalism as well. It's about sort of organisational stuff, not just the research and writing. Very true. And also you work very fast. Very fast.
I guess you know those days when you had to produce 1,000 words in half an hour, and you just be like,
you just do it, don't you?
It's weird, and like I said, I can do it with quite a bit of noise. I can go and sit in a cafe, and it doesn't bother me that there's noise. Whereas I know a lot of writers have to have complete silence.
I don't think I kept that.
Really?
I need
like
the silence.
Yeah.
But I remember the newsroom was crazy.
Somehow you deal with it.
Yeah, exactly. So we've talked about the plotting and pantsing. You're a pantser. And Michael Rowbotham once told you, if you know the ending, the reader will too, which is really good advice for a thriller author. How far into a novel do you get before you decide who to pin the crime on?
Well, I always know who the victim is, so usually I'll kind of think, I want to write a book about someone who is this kind of character, and this is why people don't like them, and this is why all these people have a reason to not like this person, in a kind of a bit of an Agatha Christie way. And Michael's quote was just the best, because it made me realise that you can just write and make everyone a credible suspect as you go along, and if you don't know who that person is, then you can give each of them a reason, and you can keep the suspense going all the way along, and then you can decide which one of them you're going to pin it on. And with the running club, I really didn't know, and I think I got to about 3/4 of the way through, and I went into the kitchen one day and I said to Rob, who did it? And Rob was like, well, could be this person, or it could be this person, or it could be these two people together, or it could be. And we went through everything, didn't we? And we worked out who it was with my my co-author. And so that was really far through. With the next book, I did know the one that's the destination thriller. I did know who that was going to be. Not from the start, but I kind of, as soon as I started writing the characters, I worked out who had the most to gain. But yeah, the victim never changes, but the perpetrator may.
Because you often have the victim in the prologue, don't you?
Yeah. So always know who that is.
So that's an Agatha Christie sort of style.
Yeah, maybe. Well, I don't know. I wonder if she did that, because she's so good at making everyone a suspect, isn't she? So you never know who it's going to be. So, and I really like that, and that's what Michael Rowbotham does so well as well.
So have you ever sort of second guessed it and then changed who the perpetrator is? Like you've decided on someone and then later on decided again that it's someone else?
I don't think I've changed a perpetrator, but I have added in another victim. So with the school run, I handed in my edits, and my lovely editor Kim came back to me and said, oh, I think we could up the stakes here and just have another dead body. And I was like, oh God, no, I have to go back. And I think I had to go and take 30 or 40,000 words out, certainly get rid of a lot of words to rewrite. But it's so much better for the editing, and that's the same with, you know, as Helen will testify as well, it's so much better, you know, a book is so much better rounded and, you know, has so much more nuance when you've had a really good editor make suggestions, because I think you do get to a point where you've been looking at your own writing for so long that you just can't see the wood for the trees, and you do need someone with a hell of a lot of experience to come in and say, okay, well, this is what you should be doing, and you know, someone who works in an industry who knows what they're talking about, basically.
Yeah. And has it been easier to trust your own instincts as you've gone on? Because sometimes when people suggest things that you disagree with, it's hard to actually say no. Do you ever say no?
I did push back on something. I usually agree because I have to bow to the greater, you know, like I know that they know what they're talking about and I don't. I'm a newbie to all of this.
Not really.
I'm 3 books in, I guess. But at the beginning I really was, and you know, the first time I've pushed back on something was in the school run, and it wasn't even a big thing. I don't know how many people have actually read it yet, but it's if you know about, Belinda knows about the post at the end. That was going to be something that was going to be taken out, and I said no, I love that. I really want to keep that. And
great.
my editor was like, yeah, okay, well, but, you know, that's fine. But obviously, me being me, I was very much like, oh, would you mind if I kept that? Do you really like that? And she was like, yeah, that's fine.
You can have your one thing, Ali.
Thank you so much.
Do you think you have got a bit more confidence in the writing now that you've written, you know, how many have you written now?
5. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm probably a bit more able to take risks and explore things, and maybe take a chance on a really big twist that I might not have wanted to do before. Certainly when I wrote the trivia night, I was sort of scared of everything and wanting to know what I needed to do the right thing, and very much reading every book you could read, and kind of working out whether I had a spreadsheet and whether I had things in the right place, and whether my inciting incident was in the right place, and whether you know, everyone was having their full character arc, and so overwhelmed with that I almost forgot to be creative.
Yeah.
Whereas with the running club, I just tossed all that out the window, and I just thought, I'm going to write the book I want to write. And as long as it's not ridiculously, as long as it has, you know, a solid start, solid middle, you know, solid conclusion, and it's following a kind of loose trajectory of how it should, then I'm gonna just go with it. And I've just kind of done that with the others, and not to say that they won't come back 4 and 5 with loads of edits. They will, but
edits,
that happens, and so I think it's definitely confidence.
So maybe you can go on instinct a bit more now.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. What was the most challenging part of writing this book? You had a few setbacks, didn't you? Just in terms of, well, not setbacks, but you had to edit, like take out the words, that kind of thing. Was that the challenge? That's probably the most challenging part. But I mean, it wasn't too bad editing wise. Compared to the trivia night maybe, but yeah, it always is quite difficult when you've written something and you've handed it in, and you kind of handed it in. It sounds like schoolwork, doesn't it? It is like schoolwork though.
Yeah,
like English exams all over again.
You know, it's hard when you've done all that, especially when it's 96,000 words, whatever it is, and then you kind of get it back and it's like, oh, we really like this, and in the edit note they always put, oh, we really love this, and this is what you've done so well, in 2 paragraphs, and you're like, oh, great, and then it's like, but the whole second half. So yeah, that's quite difficult, but I'm quite sort of pragmatic about it, and I'll just get on with it. because you have to. You don't have a choice. You've got to get
That's
it
the
done.
journalism too, I reckon.
Yeah,
You just
you take criticism, don't you, as a journo, and you kind of, if someone rips out half of your story because, you know, something better's come along, or your story doesn't even get put in the paper because someone,
exactly. You spent a
something
whole day
happens.
and nothing happened.
Yeah, so you do kind of, you know, that's fine. So it wasn't really, I wouldn't say it was a massive hardship, but I did have less time the last round of edits for book 4 to get my work in, and that was quite intense. Especially as my edits always seem to come during school holidays.
Yeah, they do.
Funny that.
Mine do too.
It's almost like your editor wants them off their desk.
Yes, exactly.
So that's a bit of a challenge sometimes.
Yeah.
But no, the best part of the process is definitely the writing, and the hardest, the editing, I'd say. But a lot of people say differently. I mean, you prefer the editing, don't you?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's easier than writing a first draft. No, you love the first draft. And what do you find to be the best part of the sort of publishing process as a whole?
Oh, I think I always say this, and I always feel really cheesy saying this, but it's the community. We're so lucky. There's just such a beautiful community of Sydney-based writers, and it's kind of opened up a new world for me. You know, it really is a massively new facet to my life, and it's been so brilliant. But of course, you can never beat looking at a shelf and seeing your book there, and you know, and having people email you and say, "Oh, I really enjoyed your book because of this," and you know, "Thank you for the entertainment," kind of thing, and that makes you feel really special. So yeah, it's been good. It's a good job.
Okay, so other authors that you love?
Sally Hepworth. You know how much I adore Sally. Love Sally Hepworth. I love Leanne Moriarty. Burr Carroll's books, B.M. Carroll's books, I love. I really do. Burr writes a really amazing thriller. I just really love thriller writers. So Lisa Jewell, any kind of suburban noir. I've just started Dervla's book, What Happened to Nina, which I'm really enjoying. About 3 chapters in. I've just read Tilda is Visible by Jane Tara, which I really enjoyed. A beautiful book. So I kind of read across lots of genres, but if someone's book comes out and I'm going to pre-order it, it would be Leanne and Sally, without a shadow of a doubt. I'm usually lucky enough to get one of theirs, so well, I was last time.
Ali is like the most prolific reader I have ever met. I think you must be a speed reader. I don't know. It's
I think
crazy.
Belinda's probably a bit more prolific than me.
You two would give each other a run for your money.
I'll race you.
It's full on. Do you sort of consider reading part of the job?
Yeah, I really do, because I think you have to read, you know, partly because we support each other by reading each other's books, partly because you want to see what the trends are, I guess. I don't know, I really enjoy it. You know, I've always got a book on the go, and it's my way of winding down when life's crazy. But
and do you sort of read in little snippets, or do you need to have like a long sort of couple of hours to read?
Oh no, I can read for half an hour before bed, or I can read in the car when I'm waiting for the kids, or pretty much drag my book around with me everywhere. Just in case I get a quiet 5 minutes.
And you read like a, you know, paper book. You don't read Kindle,
sometimes I read on Kindle, but if I'm going on holiday, but I do quite like having a paper book, but I shouldn't really say that because my husband bought me a Kindle, so sorry.
But you are in a bookshop. So.
Yeah. Oh yes, of course. That's why I said it done.